Call to order a regular meeting of the Goodyear City Council on December 2007. Would you please join Councilmember Lord in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please stay standing? Bow our heads. Lord, as we enter the special season of celebration, we give thanks for all that you have provided to our city. We look to your light to shine upon us, giving us your inspiration, knowledge, and righteousness to walk the path of sustainability for our city, while reaching for the stars of opportunities. In the spirit of the holidays, we ask our neighbors to open up their hearts and to give contributions to the families in need. And Lord, we ask for your coat of protection to be placed over our troops and their families serving around the world. We pray for a joyous and safe holiday for all. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. No council members are in attendance. We have no expenditures to ratify. We do have a special communications this evening, though. We're very pleased to have Richard Stevenson, who is the CEO and owner of the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. He's here with Robert Mayo, and David Villette was going to be here.
He's our chauffeur.
He's our chauffeur. But we're very pleased with the progress we're making with your outstanding organization, and we just can't wait to open the doors. So welcome to our meeting this evening.
Thank you, kind sir. Thank you, one and all, for allowing us an opportunity to be with you very quickly. We know that your meeting's running a little over, and you'd like to get to the more important tasks. The most important task from my perspective, of course, is to introduce you our Vice Chairman, Bob Mayo, who's been the spearhead for this, and to remind you it's about my family, and more importantly, my mother in heaven now looking down upon this marvelously gracious invitation you've extended to us to change the face of cancer now. When you see what we open here, you'll see the change of medicine will come to the valley. It's only and always about the patient. It's never about us. It's never about the doctors, the insurance company, the pile of bricks and mortar, which will be magnificent here. Magnificent, a welcoming arms unlike you've seen in this country. To greet those who have been given no hope in so many distant places. Around the world, they'll come to your valley for a more hopeful option, which they will sense is here. Thank you for your hospitality. This is the season of gratitude. On behalf of patients numbering thousands who do not have an option, they will soon have one in Goodyear, Arizona, thanks to your gracious hospitality. I came to say thanks on behalf of my mother. As I said, in heaven, it is about my mother. This is not our business. We're a banking family based in Europe. This is about changing the face of an ugly disease, one patient at a time, in the only way that makes sense, based on what they value, not on what we value. And you've made that possible. All of you made that possible, and I say to you all, thank you. You will never see anything about which you could be more pleased than what you see we'll do in the opening of this magnificent facility in your city. And that's the truth there. You can do. Bob Mayo.
We have to scoot to a dinner. I just wanted to say to the mayor, to Rob, Dick, Georgia, Joanne, we couldn't have worked with a better staff than the people who work for the city. They could not believe that we would break ground when we said we would. We burned a lot of midnight oil, but we were out at the site today. They're driving piers, and in December of 2008, you'll have a brand new Center of Excellence for Cancer Care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now an opportunity for any citizen who would like to comment on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Would anyone like to comment? Report to the council on any non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the items by title only, please.
Item A, approved draft minutes of special meeting held on November 26, 2007, draft minutes of a regular meeting held on November 26, 2007, draft minutes of a special meeting held on December 3, 2007, and draft minutes of a work session held on December 3, 2007. Item B, adopt resolution 07-1209, approving and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Union Pacific Railroad that addresses the city's support for the construction of a second main track across the existing 83rd Avenue public grade crossing located within the city of Goodyear, and Union Pacific Railroad's support for the construction of a West Fillmore Street across a section of Union Pacific's right-of-way known as the Litchfield Industrial Lead, generally located west of Litchfield Road, and for the ultimate abandonment of this line, authorizing and directing the city manager to execute the memorandum of understanding and to take all actions and execute all documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and the memorandum of understanding, declaring an emergency, and providing for an effective date. Item C, accept the map of dedication for the rights-of-way and public utility easements within Ballpark Village. 2, conveyance of approximately .53 acres of parking areas within Ballpark Village. And 3, the dedication of the rights-of-way and public utility easements within Wood Corporate Campus. Item D, approve the preliminary plat for Pebble Creek Phase 2, Unit 44, subdividing 24 acres into 61 single-family lots and one tract generally located west of the northwest corner of Clubhouse Drive and Saraville Avenue within the Pebble Creek Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. Item F, accept the public utility easement dedication for a portion of Southwood Boulevard approximately 1/4 mile north of Lower Buckeye Road, east of Estrella Parkway. Item F, approve the final plat for Las Brisas Phase 2C, subdividing 118 acres into 353 single-family lots located along the north side of Broadway Road between Citrus Road and Perryville Road within the Las Brisas Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. Item G, approve the preliminary condominium plat for Estrella Parcel 5.9, the villas at Mountain Ranch, subdividing 28.1 acres into 86 condominium units within 35 buildings, generally located west of Golf Club Drive, approximately 1/4 mile north of West Star Drive, in the Estrella Final Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. Item H, adopt Resolution 07-1212, declaring certain public rights-of-way for a portion of Lower Buckeye Road located east of Estrella Parkway to be unnecessary for public purposes and vacating certain public rights-of-way. Item I, authorize staff to enter into a contract with Swan and Associates in the amount not to exceed $95,000 for special inspections related to the Goodyear Ballpark and Recreational Sports Complex. Item J, authorize 6 additional firefighters for increased operational staffing in Sonoran Valley. Item K, approve a comprehensive sign package for Palm Valley Phase 303, a 1,745-acre industrial and commercial development generally located between Citrus Road to the west, Charles Boulevard to the east and southeast, Thomas Road to the south, and Camelback Road to the north, subject to stipulations. Item L, approve an application for a bingo license for Wayne Coulter, representing Cotton Lane RV, located at 17506 West Van Buren Street. Item M, authorize an increase to the Bullard Avenue Storm Drain Outfall Project budget in the amount of $100,000 for an allowance for change orders and additional retention basin improvements as required by the Flood Control District of Maricopa County.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Councilmember Cavalier?
Yes, item 7C and item 7I, I need to recuse myself from those two, either of those two items.
Okay, then why don't we, any other exceptions? Okay, then.
Mr. Mayor?
Brian's got
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Excuse me, we were asked to remove one of the items until future, and that's item number K, comprehensive sign package for Palm Valley 303.
Okay, that's K. All right, to remove K.
And the rezoning that's under the business agenda as well that's related to that.
Which one is that? So we've got it right now. All right. So we'll remove 7K from consent and 8I from business, correct? Postpone them.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, then could I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 7A, B, D, E, F, G, H, L, M. Is that correct?
J and
J.
K as well.
Okay, let me say it another way. Could I have a motion to approve all consent items excepting 7K, 7C, and 7I?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, then, Councilmember Cavalier excusing himself. We'll move to consent agenda items 7C and 7I.
Mayor, I move that we approve items 7C and I as read by the clerk.
Second.
A motion from Vice Mayor
Antoniak.
Antoniak and Councilmember Holland.
I got that.
Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
You want to tell Frank? Unless it's out being the
We're going to leave
away.
him out there.
Okay, Councilmember Cavalier is returned to the dais. I've been asked by Mr. Gilbert if we could modify the flow of the agenda to move C, D, and E, all associated with Levinson 160, to the first three items on the agenda. I have no problem with that. Would anyone object? No?
No.
Okay. Then I think it's Mr. Williams is going to lead that off. Is that correct? Again, we're on C, D, and E, and that is the development agreement with Jones Levinson, an ordinance to rezone the planned area, and a preliminary plat for that area.
Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, public. I was going to lead off and just briefly talk about the development agreement, and then Mr. Williams will discuss the rezoning and the preliminary plat, and we'll discuss all three of them, and then you can take separate action on each item. We've received a request for zoning for what is known as Joan Levinson's property. It's 160 acres, which is at the southwest corner of Lower Buckeye Road and Citrus. It's vacant property. They're proposing a master plan development, mostly residential, approximately 25 acres of commercial, one of the corners. This is one of the 16 MOU properties that the Mayor and Council entered into back in May of 2005. A development agreement was required with the rezoning. The development agreement mirrors the memorandum of understanding. We have added a new provision, however, it's Proposition 207, acknowledgement and waiver. It's the last paragraph in the agreement on page 32, paragraph 35. Just wanted to point that out. We are, as a standard, the staff is adding that to all development agreements. Otherwise, the agreement pretty much mirrors everything else within the MOU, the same contributions and same terms and conditions. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Williams.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you're doing C, D, and E as one. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then I will ask for public comment for all three at once. Okay?
Thank you. Mayor, Council, as Mr. Kraus had indicated, this parcel is located on the southwest corner of Citrus and Lower Buckeye. Surrounding developments include the Pradera development to the north, the Citrus Ridge development to the east, and then we have Las Brisas and El Cedro to the southwest and the southeast. Now, this property was annexed in July of 2000 and currently has an AU zoning district. The general plan outlines this area as low-density residential with a 2 to 4 dwelling units per acre. As a participating member of the MOU, there is a 0.85 density bonus included with that. The Levinson 160 proposes 422 single-family lots as well as the 24-acre commercial site. The residential component is comprised of 55-foot and 70-foot wide lots with a minimum lot size of roughly 6,400 feet and a maximum lot size of 9,700 square feet. The 24 acres of commercial is located here in the southwest corner and will be subject to the C2 development standards. The general plan supports the inclusion of commercial nodes where arterials do intersect. The proposed development as it sits is proposing a density of 3.26 dwelling units per acre. The development is served by two entrances, one along Lower Buckeye, the other along Citrus Road here. The residential streets will contain detached sidewalks. They will have street tree programs in the different lots. I would also point out at this point that the preliminary plat in front of you this evening includes parcels 1 and 2. It excludes parcel 3, which is the court home parcel, which we will see at a later time. They propose roughly 20.9% of open space, or 33 acres. Amenities include a 13-acre central park, shaded ramadas, sports courts, lit ball courts, picnic areas, and playground areas. A citizen review meeting was held on July 26th. There was no opposition voiced for this development at that meeting. Staff recommends that we approve this development before you this evening, subject to the stipulations contained in the staff reports. That concludes my presentation tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, as well as Mr. Gilbert is here as well. Thank you.
So the staff is supporting the development agreement, the ordinance to rezone, and the preliminary plat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Comments from the applicant?
None, Your Honor. Trusting my brevity will be rewarded.
Paul, I'll tell you, it never fails.
You're never lost for words, are you?
Comments from the public on all three, development agreement, rezone, and plat. Okay, seeing none, let me proceed. First off, we'll do the resolution approving a development agreement. Ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 07-1214, approving a development agreement with Joan A. Levinson regarding the infrastructure development of 160.34 acres generally located at the southwest corner of Lower Buckeye Road and Citrus Road within the city of Goodyear, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion? Mayor, I move the council adopt resolution 07-1214.
Second.
Read by the city clerk. Motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for council discussion. Development agreement.
Just a thanks on the 207. Appreciate your acknowledgement on that, and the waiver, and the brevity. Your client's getting their value.
Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move to the rezone. Ask the clerk to read that ordinance by title only also, please.
Adopt Ordinance 07-1096, providing for conditional rezoning of 160.34 acres of property from the Agricultural Urban Zoning District to the Planned Area Development Zoning District for a development known as Levinson 160, case number 07-200-00004, generally located at the southwest corner of Citrus and Lower Buckeye Roads, adopting supplementary zoning map number 07-004 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion, please?
I move we adopt ordinance 07-1096 as read by the city clerk.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Lord and second from Councilmember Souza. It's open for discussion. Could I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move to approve the preliminary plat. And I'd ask for a motion to do that, please.
So moved.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion.
I have a couple questions.
Councilmember Osborne?
Mr. Williams, a couple questions. I saw that within the minutes of planning and zoning, there was a question regarding the trail system. Can you explain that a little bit? And if there has been any remedy to it?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, there was, the question at planning and zoning was with regards to an elevation difference in the WAPA easement that runs through the...
Sorry, could you speak up in the microphone a little bit?
The question was with regard to an open trail easement underneath the power lines that would run through to the Las Brisas development. Up until this point, there had been no, the open space track would have just terminated right then and there. What the applicant, had agreed to was work with the Las Brisas development, have opened up dialogue with them as far as connecting it. There was an elevation grade difference in the two developments that would have to be addressed, but look at avenues and areas in a way to keep that connectivity going on through the other development.
Good. I just thought that was important. Also, on, let's see, Section E within their template, the lower southern park that is next to Citrus Road, there's a landscaping buffer between the park and Citrus Road. Could you give me an idea of what that space is next to a very busy road or park for children to park?
Put this on Elmo.
Get my phone.
Commissioner Osborne, are we talking about this
Yes.
area right here? It actually serves as a couple of different avenues here. This portion of the open space that you see here is actually a drainage channel, and the exact width of that escapes me at this time. Roughly 100 feet.
So it will be kind of a concaved area. Okay, so it will be a natural buffer in that sense from grade.
As well as retention and then a tot lot in that area as well.
Okay, that's perfect for me. Also, in Section I, you gave a little conceptual architecture theming. Is this your color palette also? Whichever. I apologize. Thank you.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilwoman Osborne, that is conceptual. We wanted to put something there showing what type of theme, what type of development you could expect when that comes forward with their own preliminary plat, and at that point, they'll have their own architecture and their own color palette. But that's kind of representative of the quality and the standards we're trying to set for this project.
Okay. I like other flavors than brown.
You will have that opportunity.
Kind of like a neon light.
Well, you know, it doesn't have to be neon light now. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Further comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the preliminary plat, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, 7-0. There you go.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
We will now return to item 8A, and we're going to have a public hearing and resolution to consider the submittal of home CDBG applications for fiscal years 08 and 09. I'll open the public hearing and ask for staff presentation.
Mayor, member of council, I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about our plans for CDBG and home for this year. Hopefully I can keep it quick as well. Hopefully I can get the slide to change. The funding we're going after is from the Maricopa County Community Development Department. There are two primary funding sources. They are CDBG, Community Development Block Grants, and Home Housing Rehab funding. This is an annual competitive application process. It's become very competitive in recent years. The city competes with all of the jurisdictions in Maricopa County that are under 50,000 in population. There's about 7 of us, Youngstown, Tolleson, Guadalupe, Buckeye, those sort of communities. This year, their estimated funding allocation, the federal government has not yet given them their figures. The federal government has not yet passed a budget. There's estimated to be $2 million available in CDBG money and $630,000 available in home money. This year, and the purpose of me being here tonight is to seek your approval to go after 2 programs from CDBG money. We are not going after any of the home housing rehab money this year. There's a couple reasons for that. One is we still have an outstanding balance worth of about $55,000 from the last 2 years. We currently do not have a approved housing consultant. The housing consultant we were working with is not in favor with Maricopa County, and I'll leave it at that. We've also looked at our home housing rehab program, and we found some problems with it in that it's not a holistic approach. The purpose of the home housing rehab is to work with citizens to build equity stake in their house. What we're finding is our participants are refinancing their homes. We actually had a situation where somebody went into a reversible mortgage this year and liquidated all of their equity stake in their home. So we're currently working on relaunching our home housing rehab program with a lot of wraparound educational services on budgeting and equity and that sort of thing. Projects for eligible activity must come from our consolidated plan. I know there are a lot of activities that you all would like to fund. We are limited to those projects that are in our approved consolidated plan, of which was just approved in spring of this year. Deadline's coming up December 14th, and if we receive the funds, they'll be available roughly July of next year. These are the 2 projects that we're seeking CDBG funding. I'm very excited about both of these projects. One is historic Goodyear infrastructure improvements. We're going after roughly $82,500. This is for sites throughout historic Goodyear, several of the neighborhood parks, several of the neighborhoods, and what we're focusing on is ADA accessibility and putting sidewalk cuts in where there aren't currently sidewalk cuts to bring those neighborhoods and those parks up to ADA requirements. The second project I know is near and dear to many of your hearts, and it's improvements in the historic Goodyear Commercial District, and it's a whole package of pedestrian calming, landscaping, ADA accessibility, pedestrian safety, traffic calming, you name it. We're going after $500,000, which should make a nice down payment on the commercial corridor. For the CDBG program, I'm not coming to you for match funds tonight, which hopefully is a good thing. And I didn't do that. There is no local match requirement, and the city has invested quite a bit of money already in design for this area that can be counted as a local contribution towards this program. One of the things you need to know is Goodyear is a little bit handicapped as far as the projects we go after, in that we do not have a quote-unquote low and moderate income census tract in our community, just the way the census tracts fall. So for us to go after this funding, we have to look at projects that open up our resources to populations that have limitations, whether it be children, elderly, physically challenged. So you'll see a theme with all our projects that they're safety, ADA accessibility, you name it. And absolutely both these projects will benefit these limited clienteles. Public participation, as you well know, the historic Goodyear Commercial Corridor, there's been public participation on this project for years and years and years, from design meetings, you name it. The Economic Development Department has a Litchfield Corridor Task Force, which has been very active, and their support has been great, and then also the public hearing tonight. This is my recommendation that you adopt this resolution authorizing the submission of these 2 applications. I know the clerk will read it in a second, but I feel really proud and excited about these 2 projects. And I just want to acknowledge a couple folks. Council members Cavalier and Osborne for serving on the CDAC committee this year. Councilmember Souza for serving on it in the past, the various city departments that have helped gather the information for these applications, and then all the various community groups and neighborhood alliances supporting this process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ask for comments from the public now. Comments from the public. This is an open hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution Number 07-1211, authorizing the submission of 2 applications for Community Development Block Grant Program funds to the Maricopa County Community Development Department, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents relating to said applications and any grant offer.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So
moved.
Second.
I got it first.
Motion, Councilmember Osborne, and second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I want to compliment Matt for his efforts on the part of the Historic Goodyear Alliance. These people are looking forward to these projects, and I trust that you're going to be successful in obtaining this kind of money for these projects, which are much needed in this area. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment, Matt. I know how much paperwork is involved with these grants, so and I know the competition is very high. So go get them.
I'm doing my best.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Matt, since we don't have this contractor anymore, who is the person? Is there an outside contractor assisting the city with this now, or are you on your own?
Currently, I'm on my own. I've been meeting with community services, and we're looking at possibly partnering with one of the neighboring communities and tapping into their housing consultant services. For us to put an RFP out and contract on our own for a housing consultant, it would probably use up half of the money we have. So really partnering with a community that has somebody on staff or under contract is the way to go.
So has that been worked out, or you?
No, we're still working on that. Right now, it's just me managing the program.
Okay, yeah, because that needs to be, I think, looked at. That's a little much for you to take on yourself without any outside help or any expertise in that area. So, and also, I just want to, let's not have this happen, that we let any of these things expire, because we started out this year with kind of a little bit of a bad reputation with CDAC, and let's clean that up and let's get this thing going again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matt, explain the situation that you brought to our attention regarding this one homeowner that
Reverse mortgage.
reverse mortgage.
There's several examples, but basically, one of the goals of the housing rehab program is obviously to rehab that house, to bring the kitchen up to code, the bathrooms up to code, make it a livable house. The other goal is to help that homeowner in a low and moderate income community to start building an equity stake in their home. And our goal is that down payment by the city, by the county of $25,000 for a new kitchen and a new bathroom will increase the value of that house, thus building their equity stake, which can be used to improve that family's fortunes in life, whether it pay for college education down the road or retirement or whatever the case might be. We've had numerous instances lately where homeowners have decided, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to pass judgment, that it was in their best interest to take out a second mortgage, a third mortgage, tapping into that equity that we've helped them build in their house. With the most notable example being that somebody, and again, they had their own reasons for doing this, took out a reverse mortgage. So basically, that goal of ours to help build an equity stake in that house, they've signed it over to a mortgage company, with the trade-off that they get to stay in that house in perpetuity. But
we do have recourse in gaining that money back from the
right.
individual.
And they're forgivable loans, and everything goes through the city attorney's office, and we make sure that our stake in the property is secure for the life of those forgivable loans. But at some point, they need to maintain, $15,000, $20,000. but they're, entering into second mortgages for $50,000, $75,000, getting rid of that equity stake in the property. And that's problematic, and I think some of that can be solved with a, real good wraparound education program on budgeting and home ownership and those sort of issues.
Well, yeah, and if need be to be reimbursed for this money that they've already garnered in a reverse mortgage, they can't take a lump sum settlement. It has to be piecemeal.
Right.
So there's still money there that we can tap into if need be.
Right. We're still lien holders on the property, and our money is still secure for the life of those forgivable mortgages.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilmember Lord?
I have to stick pretty much to what this one is. Can I ask him any questions on anything else concerning the CDBG or grants?
I think you can on CDBG, yes.
We talked about this before. Is there, first of all, thank you for your presentation, and at last for the redevelopment down on Western. It's really great to see it happen. We talked about before about CDBG grants that might be directed for workforce housing. We had that discussion. And also of a financial group that backs these type of transactions. Could you just enlighten us? Is that, I don't know if that's allowed on this, to discuss this on this, so that's why I'm asking you that.
I think it is, because
want to make sure that
basically, we're being asked to approve 2 applications.
Yeah.
There could be more, and what you're talking about, in fact, could be an application.
Yeah,
So it's
we were
worthwhile.
just talking, workforce housing, the special financing programs that we talked about using as a tool to recruit our police and fire and teachers and nurses and get more of our employees living in the city. And I think we only have 37% living in the city of all of our employees. There's lots of models throughout the United States, and particularly in Arizona, I believe you discussed. And then there was a nonprofit organization that can help with the funding of that. Can you just sort of enlighten us on that?
We're very appreciative of the funding we've received from HUD and Maricopa County over the years for this program. Our hands are a little bit tied as long as we are still a member organization of the CDAC and we get our funding through Maricopa County and not directly from the federal government, from HUD. The CDAC meets and they decide what types of projects are going to be fundable each year. Service delivery projects that are eligible, can be funded under CDBG are not fundable under the guidelines of the CDAC. The CDAC has said they want bricks and mortar projects. They want projects that focus on low and moderate income census tracts, and they want projects that open up, community facilities to these special clienteles. So that really sort of drives us right now. In the future, presumably in 2010, 2011, when the next census is done and the city is now larger than 50,000 in population officially from the Census Department, Census Bureau, we will then get our own direct CDBG allocation, and we'll be able to do a lot of innovative things around, workforce housing like we've discussed. There are some things we can do, between now and then to be prepared, like some of these educational programs, partnering with a local bank, with a local credit union to come in and teach, first-time home buyer classes, budgeting, those sort of things. There are also some things we can do internally, and this is a much bigger discussion for a different day. Waiving impact fees if a developer, will sell, houses to Goodyear employees, passing that savings on. Things we can do internally. I'm trying to get back on track. And also, partnering with local nonprofits with CHODAs who can go after CDBG funding on their own through different avenues. CHODAs being community housing development agencies that are in the business of, developing these workforce housing, these type of projects, and have some flexibility to go after financing and grants the city doesn't. And oftentimes they're just looking for a partnership, whether it be through land assistance, utility assistance, that sort of thing. So for the next 2 or 3 years before we become a direct recipient of CDBG, we'd have to look at some of these other alternatives of, ways of bringing workforce housing into Goodyear.
So what you're saying to me, even though the housing market at this time has lowered somewhat, it is an opportunity to start working on developing workforce housing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, absolutely. With the market as it is right now, it's a wonderful opportunity to explore some of these opportunities that 2 years ago might have been cost prohibitive to explore. So it's definitely worth further discussion.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
We'll now have a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution to form a special public improvement area for a Louth property. I'll open the public hearing. Harvey Kraus.
Rick Williams is handing out a revised Exhibit A, and I'll explain in a minute. The city has a request from Louth Property Group, a developer that owns approximately 157 acres. The property is located north of Broadway to the south, Lower Buckeye to the north, on the east, Litchfield Road to the west. There isn't a road. There's El Cielo will come down about halfway. Cielo means sky, by the way. It's easier to say sky than El Cielo. And then MC85 is located here, and here's the airport. So that's the property. It was rezoned to light industrial not too long ago, several months ago, and the developer wishes to begin phase one of this 157-acre industrial park, wishes to develop about 24 acres to the north and develop from north to south, and proposes to build a 418,000 square foot spec industrial warehouse building. I don't believe he has a user, but he wishes to start that process as phase one, so 24 acres in this location. The developer, Louth, has asked for a special public improvement area for the purpose of recovering water and sewer infrastructure that's proposed on El Cielo. It's a cul-de-sac. It borders Airport Commerce Number 2. That was the name of the plat years ago. It was platted back in the mid-'80s. The new owner calls it Goodyear Air Park, and you may know it better by Goodyear Air Park. This is the property, Louth's property. So this particular road is on the western border with Goodyear Air Park, and a water line and a sewer line, an 8-inch sanitary sewer line and a 12-inch water distribution line are required to be installed on this particular road, El Cielo. And the utilities benefit both properties, benefits Louth as well as benefits these 5 lots or 6 lots that are on the west side of El Cielo. So Louth intends to build prior to Goodyear Air Park, and the cost recovery ordinance allows for a mechanism for Louth to recover a proportionate share of that water and sewer line that directly benefit the neighbor to the west. So the purpose in this cost recovery is to allocate those benefited costs for that water and sewer line, and then when the developer initiates development through a site plan or building permit, the city would collect those funds and in turn reimburse Louth for their share of that water and sewer line. The total cost of the water and sewer is approximately $161,000, and originally we talked about just dividing it in half, $80,000 for each property owner. And since that time, as the ordinance requires, the cost recovery ordinance requires, a 30-day notice was sent out prior to this public hearing, and the owner, Goodyear Air Park, was alerted to this cost recovery as well as this allocation of $80,000, and contacted the owner LOF, and they worked out another allocation of costs. So instead of splitting the cost 50-50, they determined that the fair way to do it was through acreage. So the primary acreage is 70% of the acreage is LOF's, so they would assume 70%, a little over 70% of the cost, and approximately a third of the cost would be paid by Goodyear Air Park. So instead of $80,000, these particular properties would be encumbered with approximately $47,000. So that is the cost recovery ordinance, or it's a resolution of intention to form a cost recovery. And I believe the applicant is represented by Karen Keith, or Dustin, or Carlos, one of them. They're here, and they can answer any particular questions, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Harvey. Ask for comments from the public to include the applicant. Applicant or the public wish to comment? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 07-1213 of intention by the Mayor and Council of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, Arizona, approving and establishing a special public improvement project area, which area benefits from those special public improvements associated with water and sewer improvements within the City of Goodyear, which special public improvements will be funded and installed by owners or developers of property within Goodyear Point Commerce Center, and authorizing the city to recover a proportionate allocated cost for these water and sewer improvements from the owners of the identified benefited property upon their development, and the reimbursement of those costs to the owners or developers who financed and installed the improvements, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 07-1213 as read by the clerk.
Second.
With the understanding that the figures shown to us this evening in Exhibit A as presented by Harvey will apply. I assume my second would probably agree to that as well. Okay.
Okay, motion by Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's open for discussion. Vice Mayor, then.
Just thanks for getting it out 30 days in advance. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
We thought of you.
Councilmember Holland?
I bet you did.
Councilmember Souza?
31. Harvey, how involved is the city in collecting these funds and dispersing them to the property owner? Could you explain that process?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Souza, we will, if the property owner, LOF will finance the entire infrastructure and install it on his nickel or seek other kinds of financing from the city, and then be completed. There's a time limit for when this recovery ordinance is good for, but any time during that period of time, if we receive a permit request or site plan request for one of these lots that is encumbered by this, then at just one lot will trigger, prior to us issuing a permit or approving a site plan, I will make a request of Goodyear Air Park, or whoever the owner of that lot is at the time, for full cost recovery, that $47,000, and we won't issue a permit unless they pay that.
Then we collect the money, and then
Then we in turn reimburse LOF for their share of it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Souza? Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
We just completed 8A and 8B, and earlier we completed C, D, and E. We'll now move to 8F, and that's the annual financial report from Henry and Horn. Teresa Sims.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to present to you the comprehensive annual financial report for the City of Goodyear for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2007. With me is Marilyn Mays, from Henry and Hahn. She's the manager that worked on the audit for any specific questions that you may have. The city has received a clean opinion. We don't have any material misstatements on the audits. The city's ending fund balance, 99 million, which is similar to the beginning budget. Again, those balances are set aside, so you can't spend it. The management letter that I've given you shows no new audit findings for this year. One of the audit findings in prior years were the CFDs. The CFD funds are now current. This year, we form an audit committee, and on that audit committee, we have 3 council members, Council Member Osborne, Lord, and Vice Mayor Antoniak. The draft financial report was discussed with the audit committee members. We also have staff of the finance director, the deputy city manager, myself, and the mayor and council administrative assistant. We've reviewed the draft with the audit committee, and if there's any questions for you, because you just got it tonight, we just got it straight from the auditors, please contact Larry or I so we can discuss it with you. We would like to thank the Finance Committee staff for such a hard work and doing such an outstanding job on the CAFA this year. We are actually ahead of time. Again, I've already sent a report to state, as well as we will be issuing this report this year for the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, the first time in the life of the city. So hopefully we will get the report. Do you have any questions? I know you haven't looked at it yet, so it's going to be hard. So you have 3 things in front of you.
Okay.
The CAFRA, the expenditure limitation, and the management letter.
Okay, thank you. Could I have, ask for comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Okay.
I have one there for you. There was one.
Could I have a motion to,
Okay.
yeah, there is. Yeah, to receive it, to receive the
Mayor,
financial report.
I move that Mayor and Council receive the 2006-2007 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report from Henry and Hahn, as recommended by staff.
Motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's any discussion or comments? Things are getting better.
Yeah, I was going to say, just a disclosure, the lion's share of the work by the audit committee, because I had 2 conflicts for the meetings, was by my colleagues. I appreciate the nice gesture and recognizing me as part of that, but really my 2 colleagues did the lion's share. I read up on a very heavy, from a very thick document last week, but I appreciate it, but really it was our 2 colleagues down to my left. But I was pleased to see that the CFDs were up to speed and that all the issues we've had over the last couple of years are gone.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations, Teresa, and all the folks in finance, and to the entire staff. This is an improvement, moving in the right direction. Good job. And thanks to Vice Mayor and Council Members Lord and Osborne. The role is just beginning.
We learned a lot.
You're going to be busy in this job. It's a tough job that you signed up for, so we thank you for doing that.
We thank the committee. They were very helpful to us.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving the report signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next 2 items will be presented together by Regis Reed, and following the presentation for both items, we'll consider adopting each item separately. And the 2 items are enter a GMP 3 for the Goodyear Ballpark and Recreational Sports Complex, and then another GMP for the Goodyear Ballpark in an amount of a different number. Okay? So
I have to recuse myself on these 2.
could you, just for the record, just very generally summarize the reasons that we have in the record?
The reasons I have to recuse myself?
Yes.
Because I am part owner of the Civitera Construction Company building the ballpark in Ballpark Village.
Okay, that's for the record.
That's for the record, okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Councilmember Cavalier is recusing himself from G and H, and we'll go to you, Regis.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of council. It's a very privileged to be here for you this evening to bring you the GMP, which is Guaranteed Maximum Price 3 and 4. In summary of the request, basically I'm here before you to seek approval for 2 contracts with Barton Mallow. GMP 3 consists of the ballpark, core and shell package, the amount of $13,805,937. GMP 4 is for the development complex, and it's for the steel package, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, interior and exterior finishes, and in essence, the completion of the development complex. And that amount is $10,478,452. As you're aware, the location of the ballpark and the development complex lies just to the east of Estrella Parkway and is divided by Lower Buckeye Parkway with the ballpark to the north and the development complex to the south. An overview of the project elements. Basically, this project, both ballpark and development complex, will be owned and operated by the City of Goodyear. The ballpark would consist of 10,000 seats, which will comprise of both stadium-style fixed seats and lawn seating. There'll be 3,000 parking spaces adjacent to the ballpark on the north. The development complex will be comprised of the Cleveland Indians clubhouse, 6 practice fields, an agility field, and half field for their practices. In addition, there'll be batting tunnels and other amenities, towers and such for observation. This is the overall site plan of the ballpark itself, located to the north. In addition to the ballpark amenities normally around this, there'll be approximately 8,000 square foot of retail that'll be adjacent to the home plate entrances. And the ballpark playing field is configured in such that it's a bowl configuration, and that the playing field itself will be approximately 16 feet below the concourse elevation, which will be the development around it. This is some architectural massing renderings. The top rendering is for the ballpark and looking straight on. Essentially, you see a large white and shadowed tower element. The actual entrance to the ballpark is just below that, a little bit of a shaded gray area. If you look down to the bottom right, I'm not going to go into all the details unless you have questions about all the illustrations, but the one to the right is essentially looking from the center field out at the home plate amenities, and the little light spot in the center will be the center field entrance. The development complex site plan before you is located to the south of Lower Buckeye Parkway, approximately 1/2 mile south of the ballpark. And this is the areas the Cleveland Indians will use year-round. The 2 large fields and half field to the north, along with their clubhouse, which is just to the south of those 2 fields, will be theirs for use complete. What we officially refer to as the quad cloverleaf to the south, the 4 playing fields there, will be utilized by the city for different youth things, possible high school tournaments, things like this, and that'll be ours to use approximately 10.5 months out of the year outside of spring training. The Cleveland Indian Clubhouse, again, just some architectural renderings. The top picture is a front view of it. The large white tower is a stair tower elevator getting up to the 2nd level, which will house our corporate offices. And the bottom view is a north elevation as you're coming south on Wood Boulevard. That's what you'll see as you're coming south. In short, tonight's requested action is to approve GMP 3 for the ballpark and GMP 4 for the ballpark. Funding source are proceeds from our bond sales, which was approved last month by Mayor and Council. This action is necessary to continue to keep us on the fast pace we're on to deliver this facility to the Cleveland Indians as we promised. That concludes my presentation, and I'd open it up to questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And ask for comments from the public now. Again, it's for both packages of $13 and $10 million plus. Any comments from the public on either package? Okay, seeing none, we'll start with the GMP 3, and I'll ask for a motion to approve that.
Mr. Mayor, Can you take both at the same time? Could I make a motion for GMP 3 and 4, identify the, just procedurally?
I'd probably take it separate.
Sorry, thought I asked.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to approve, council to authorize GMP 3 in the amount of $13,805,973 as recommended by staff.
Second it.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Antoniak and second from Vice Mayor Antoniak, second from Councilmember Holland. Comments? Councilmember Osborne.
Ask one question. Going through this, have we more or less stated that there would not be a second ball field or a second club, I should say? Have we kind of disregarded that, or would we be coming back? I don't know. I don't remember how that all works with the second and approving both of these.
That's very much still an option.
Okay. So
And we have reserved the land to do that through what? Early 2009 it's reserved?
And didn't we have a year?
We had, I think it was 18 months to 2 years, and we have a year from now approximately, a little more than a year.
I just wasn't sure if this was by moving on with this that we were giving away that option or not. Okay, that was all. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. No.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve GMP 4 in an amount not to exceed $10,478,452 as recommended by staff.
Second it.
Motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. Thank you. And again, item I has been postponed. And the next one is the response from staff regarding the matrix report. For everyone's information, we had a lengthy work session on these subjects about a week ago. Is that it? Yeah, and there you come. And tonight we plan to take more formal action. But they have been discussed for information of the public.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it is a pleasure to be back here. It was we spent about 2 hours on this last Monday, so for the public that's not here tonight, if they'd be interested in the discussion and the presentation, that can be viewed via our website. It will be a lot briefer presentation tonight. So with that, we are looking for council action tonight to actually accept the management response that's before you. As we talked about last week, there are a couple of items that you've asked for us to remove out of there or accept out of there so we can move forward, because it's very important to get this implemented and going forward. Just very briefly, again, it was an 11-month study, a comprehensive study by Matrix that looked at the entire organization organizationally and looked at efficiencies and effectiveness. Had two phases to it, phase 1 and phase 2. And by and large, the findings on this organization were very positive. So we felt very good about the assessment. We know that, though, there's always room to improve. So when staff looked at that, we had an opportunity to spend about 4 months in developing the management response back to council. Key findings of the 241 recommendations, as we went through this in a lot of detail last month, really looked at agreeing with about 95% of those recommendations. This slide tonight's a little bit different, and then it shows strictly the phase 2 portion of the recommendations, which if you look at that, 93% were viewed favorably by staff. And I wanted to just differentiate real briefly that of those, 79% were without any modifications at all. 10% had some modifications really to fit the particulars of the city. And then finally, there were only 4% that we deferred for further consideration. And lastly, 13 of the 179, we disagreed with the recommendation from the consultant. Just as a reminder, Matrix stated that they expected about 85% of those recommendations could be supported, and we went way past that number as far as what they see normally that's implemented. 42 of the recommendations already implemented, and 58 more by the end of the fiscal year. So we are making ground on these even as we speak. Generally, we talked about that we are looking at some staffing estimates. Those are in front of you. Primarily, these are tied to the Parks and Recreation Department, establishing a new one. consolidating the CIP function, and then certainly the management assistants that serve a variety of roles within this organization, to include a small part of what they would be doing is working on performance-based management and measures. Fiscal impact, we reviewed this in detail last week. We're looking at $4.2 million effectively in one-time costs. This would exclude the public safety facilities. So we were very clear that we didn't want to skew the numbers, so those are not included in there. And then also, in fairness to staff, we are looking at what additional costs may be borne by this, and certainly we bring those forward at budget time as well. Ongoing, or what we affectionately call operations and maintenance, $3.5 million phased in over the next 3 years. And this does not, again, as a reminder, include the police staffing formula. That is formula-based that really would dictate what our numbers should be for our patrol officers. And 74% of the Phase 2 recommendations, the good news is they require no funding, additional funding to implement. Right, as talked about last night, the direction that we received, that we felt like we received from council, were to accept a few items out of there. Specifically, these were merging the Engineering and Public Works Department as recommended by Matrix. We had respectfully disagreed with discussions. We felt like that's best to defer to when the next manager is on board, and we agree to defer. The other is moving aquatics and recreation to community services. And as part of that, you're establishing a separate Parks and Rec department, standalone. So with that, that's also, we agree with council's interest in having the next manager weigh in on that, so we propose to do that. And of those two items, though, the first two items, one of the things, and certainly not to throw something out that hasn't been discussed before, staff's concerned about how long we defer out, not really knowing what is the right time to do that. But we're looking at a March 1st. We would ask that if at all possible, we would need a March 1st date to try and come up with an answer to those, for this reason, that we are looking at budget implications, staffing requests, those types of things. If we go much past that, then it would impact our ability to really budget and bring those folks on board. So we're asking respectfully that there be a March 1st date tied to the first two items, if at all possible. The third item is adding the third deputy city manager. This was recommended by Matrix, and the biggest reason is it's urging the city manager to have a lot more time to be out there in the community with the different organizations, the Westmarks, the Leadership West, Luke, Westmark, MAG, and it goes on and on. So really to spend some time out there doing those types of activities. As such, it would limit the amount of direct reports that manager would have. So as we talked about last week, we agreed with Matrix to add the third deputy city manager. As we talked with council, there were comments okay, have you considered an assistant city manager in lieu of the deputy city manager? We agree that this is also one of those consistent with the other two, that the next city manager should have every opportunity to weigh in on that. So we're bringing that back before council as well. So of the findings, or of the exceptions, that's what we're proposing to council tonight. And I can go back to that slide in a second. I'm not going to go back through the organizational charts, except to say that we did some cleanup on this. What we've done is we've added the courts under the judge, so it's no longer, you'll see it in the below part of the organization, and also legal services assigned to the attorney. So we cleaned that up some. What we're still proposing until the next deputy comes on board, or the next assistant, this is the organizational chart that we're proposing to really take the burden off the city manager to allow them to do those functions. So city manager, again, would be communications, it would be the office of the mayor and council, and also the intergovernmental relations manager is what we're proposing as direct reports, along with the deputies. The future, again, we fully expect that the next manager will have every opportunity to come up with the alignments that they're most comfortable with in managing this organization. But as current administration, we were asked to propose an organizational chart. You'll see this before you. We did talk about this last week. we want it as a placeholder for now, and know that there may be some changes to that. So lastly, we're asking council tonight to accept our management response. A lot of hard work went into this on the part of staff. I see that we have Matt Hansen. He was on vacation last week, but certainly was a big part of working with us as a project manager. Wanted to acknowledge him. But we would ask that it be approved with those exceptions. I can go back to that slide if you'd like. The other is to review it with the next manager. And then lastly, this document will help be a key driver in this coming year's budget process and even the subsequent 2 years. So with that, that concludes our comments tonight. Tried to keep them brief. Again, there was a lot of discussion last week. Thank you.
I assume that's what you want the motion to read exactly as the recommendation is?
Yes, and
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we would ask that there be a March 1st, if at all achievable, timeframe for the exceptions. But that would be our recommendation to council.
Okay, comments from the public? Could I have a motion then to approve the recommendations that were provided by the interim city manager?
Second. Assuming we're going with the exceptions and the recommendations.
You need to have that in there? You need to state that in there?
Right. Why don't you, Brian, would you bring that screen in?
The exception screen is before you write.
Bring up the last one you had on.
The recommendations.
Recommendation. Okay. Mr. Mayor, move the council accept this document, the matrix document with noted exceptions, as highlighted by the acting city manager, and that in the future we will review with the new city manager these recommendations and incorporate this document in the upcoming budget process.
Second.
I so move.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Comments?
I just want. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank staff for the confidence they've placed in this document. As you pointed out, Brian, it's very, very amazing that the percentages are much higher than what the folks at Matrix anticipated. So it shows the type of professionalism, again, that this city has in its staff and the depth that you look at documents for the betterment of this organization. And I think it should also be pointed out that this document will be used as a guideline for future staff functions, additions to staff, and certainly on the part of the council itself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. We'll now move to consider acceptance of the Urban Area Security Initiative grant. And start with the staff presentation by Tim Newville.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. How are we doing?
Good. Well, Tim.
I'm going to use brevity myself. Just would like to share with you about funds that we were like to receive that we have been awarded by the Urban Area Security Initiative. We're hoping that we will be able to accept them. Just in case you're not familiar with the Urban Area Security Initiative, it is a mechanism in which funds are being received throughout the United States, and it does give some direction as far as how those funds can be utilized. When it first started out, it was more with equipment, personal protective equipment as well, apparatus, training, and communications, and now it has moved a little bit. It has moved now towards interoperability, threat vulnerability assessments, as well as target hardening. Right now we are in phase 2, is in reference to the rapid response team and what we're requesting for the medium response team here in the city of Goodyear. In 2004, the subcommittee had voted on creating rapid response teams in the larger communities, and that had been passed. And then in phase 2 now, what we're looking at is for the cities of Peoria, Goodyear, and the town of Gilbert, moving towards the phase 2 approach as far as the medium rescue teams. There are, of those 5 cities from the RRTs, Phoenix, Glendale, Tempe, Mesa, and Chandler participated. And now for phase 2, the 3 that I had mentioned, Peoria, Gilbert, and Goodyear. And I might add, it has been approved with the subcommittee, but those 3 cities are working together hand in hand to make sure that the apparatus that we're choosing are all the same. They're working together to make sure that the equipment is being picked out together as well. Do we have any questions thus far? All right. We have been sitting at the table in reference to the Urban Area Security Initiative. We have received funding in 2005 for the Terrorism Liaison Officer's position. We received $77,200 in 2005, and then for the Fire Department TLO, and then in 2006, as you can see, we received $72,000 for the police TLO. So, and we are looking for in the future, we are expecting that there will be sustainment funds that will go along with that. For what we're here for tonight, as I have mentioned, there's been $750,000 awarded to the 3 cities. I think it's really important to note, though, in these subcommittees meetings, it's not just fire departments, police, fire, communications, and public works. And the police departments throughout Maricopa County basically gave up about $1.2 million that was supposed to go to law enforcement to give to the fire department, so these medium rescue teams could be brought up to speed. So I would like to commend the law enforcement throughout Maricopa County, because they did give it up with the understanding that in 2008, as they said at the subcommittee meeting, that it would be the year of the cop, which means those funds then would go to them. So I do want to make sure that we address that. And then lastly, the benefits that it will have for our city. The approach has been regional in every aspect. We already have a hazardous material team in our city. Having the second one, if there is a need for a regional response, now we would not be leaving our city without that hazmat technology here with us. So if there's a regional response, we would send this apparatus as well as still have a hazmat team here in the city of Goodyear. The most important portion that I want you all to consider the difference between the hazmat vehicle that we have now and the one that we will be receiving, if approved, is that the interoperability capability to communicate regionally is one of the things that really came across during the grant process. So this vehicle will not only have the hazmat technicians, but it will have the capability to, no matter what department you're from, if need be, you can plug in your radio to them and they'll all be able to communicate. So I think it's important that we address that. I think that's all that I have for you. Do you all have any questions of me?
Okay, thank you. Comments from the public? Seeing none, could I have a motion, please?
Mayor, reviewing this matter, it seems to me there should be 3 actual action items, since we're talking about different subject matters, and all 3, I realize they're all combined into one co-act, but my recommendation would be that there be 3 motions, with the first motion covering recommendations 1 and 2, accepting the grant and authorizing the mayor to sign all documents. Number 3 would be your second motion, adopting the resolution 07-1210. Then your third item would be purchasing the apparatus.
Okay. Comments from the public, reference to change, 3 motions. Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor, in that vein, I move that council accept the Urban Area Security Initiative grant award from the Arizona Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $750,000, and that City Council authorize the mayor to sign all documents with regard to the UASI grant award.
Second.
Motion for Vice Mayor Antoniak, second from Councilmember Lord. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Souza?
No.
Oh. Sorry. Okay, any further discussion? I'm having trouble with the 344,000 relative to the 750,000.
Well, there's this, of the 750,000, the 344,000 is for the apparatus, and then the additional is for the training of the hazmat technicians that would be on the apparatus, and then for the equipment, as well as the backfill for those firefighters that will be receiving the training. So it's not, the 750 is not just for the vehicle, but it's equipment, training, and paying for backfill.
But it does include the 344,000.
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Recommendations 1 and 2. The next one is a resolution, and we'll need a roll call vote on that. Could I have a motion, please?
Mayor, should we read the resolution
Okay.
first?
Yeah.
Adopt Resolution 07-1210, authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement for participation in the statewide UASI Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear, Explosive, Rapid Response Team Investment Program between the Arizona Department of Homeland Security and the City of Goodyear. Participation in this IGA will allow the city to receive $750,000 for the purchase of a CBRNE response vehicle and provide training.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion for the resolution?
Move we adopt Resolution 071210 as read by the city clerk.
Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion.
I'll take $750 million if you can squeeze that in there.
Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We're now to recommendation number 4, which will be our third motion. And could I have a motion to approve the purchase of the fire apparatus?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the City Council approve the purchase of a fire apparatus from First Can Incorporated, sole provider of Pierce Manufacturing in Arizona, for the amount of $344,805 plus tax. So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Souza, a second from Councilmember Osborne. Discussion? Councilmember Holland.
Just one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, after we do this, I mean, what is next? Are you coming back, or will there be more requests for funds? Did you try to roll it all into the 750, or is this just the beginning?
Just the beginning, ma'am. For this particular one, it's the 750,000. What we're expecting, though, for next year, there will be sustainment for this particular grant. And then, as I mentioned before, the year of the COP, that we're expecting maybe another 750, 800,000 for law enforcement from the URC grant as well.
Right, and will this continue to occur
As long as the federal government continues to fund it, we are going to be at the table asking for it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Council.
Okay, we'll now move to the last item on our business agenda, and that's to amend and approve use permit for the Skyway Church. Rick Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you this evening is a request to amend the approved use permit for the Skyway Church of the West Valley, which is located west of Bullard Avenue along Van Buren Street. Just to give you a little sight, this is the church campus itself, obviously the softball field right in the middle. Wretch Mirage here to the west. Specialty food service would be there to the north and to the east. The original use permit was approved by council in August of 1999. Ball field lights were originally contemplated at that time, and they were even discussed in the citizen review meetings they had at that time, but subsequently the lights were not approved as part of the use permit, and they were not contained in any of the site plans submitted from that point on. The church has gotten to a point in time now where they're ready to proceed with installing the lights on the softball field, and basically that's how we got here before you tonight to amend this permit. I've included in your staff report there the development standards contained in Article 10, which is the outdoor lighting standards set forth in the zoning ordinance. And the development standards contained are, examples of those are shielded luminaries. There's a limit on how high the poles can be, on-off switches to control that they're not left on and they're not used at inappropriate times. Poles must be set back 50 feet from residences. And probably most importantly, and I think what the provisions of the article are getting at are protecting residential subdivisions that are adjacent to where these lots are going in. So just to look at the site a little bit and talk about those provisions in Article 10, I would point out that, as we said, this is the softball field. There will be 6 70-foot poles located around that, and there will be basically 2 down the left field line, 2 down the right field line, and 2 in the outfield. As we said, probably the most important part of this is containing light spill levels that would encroach on residential property lines. I would just point out that the nearest property line to the softball field, or adjacent to where one of the poles will be, is located roughly 450 feet away from the location of that light pole. It is anticipated, and again, the provision set in Article 10 is very specific with light levels cannot exceed 1 foot candle at that residential property line. The city's lighting consultant has reviewed these plans and concurs that with the basic configuration and the lighting proposed in this development, we will be half of that level at this residential property line. Now, we had a citizen review meeting on August 30th, 2007, and due to the width of the Bullard Wash, we extended the 500-foot barrier out to 1,000 feet to include more members of the Rancho Mirage community. We had no adjacent property owner participation at that meeting, but we have had dialogue with the president of the HOA, and the Skyway Church has communicated to them that this is a community softball field, not just a church, and they're welcome to use this, and quite frankly, they hope they take advantage of that. To this date, I've received one call from the gentleman that lives in this house right here, Mr. Tony Weiser, who had no objections with the proposal that the church is here for tonight, but he would just encourage that the city ensures that they develop what they say they're going to develop. On that note, I would say during the permitting process, there is certainly an inspection part of that, and once these lights are constructed, there will be someone from the city that will turn them on at night and go stand at that property line and measure to make sure that these folks have attained that level that they said they would. That concludes my presentation this evening. Staff has recommended approval of this amended use permit, subject to the stipulations that you have contained in your staff report this evening. That concludes my presentation. Mr. Doug Cox from Skyway Church is here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the applicant? Okay, thank you. Comments from the public? Any comments from the public on this? Okay, could I have a motion then, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move the council approve the request to amend and approve an approved use permit for the Skyway Church of the West Valley to allow field lighting of the existing community softball field within the Skyway Church campus, generally located north of Van Buren Street and west of Bullard Avenue, subject to the stipulations as appeared in the COAC. So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Susan, a second from Councilmember Holland. Open for discussion. Councilmember Holland.
Just one question having to do with the property that's south of the ball field.
This down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of help me refresh my memory. Is that zoned commercial?
Let's go to this one. It's a little bit bigger. That is undeveloped. Give me 1 second. That's vacant undeveloped land, and that's zoned agricultural at this point.
Right now.
Yeah. And that's the land, ma'am, that is south of Van Buren. This portion of it is part of the church facility and is where they use, I believe they're using it as parking for their Sunday services at this point.
Right, so mostly it's parking. Right. Yeah.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I assume that's all owned by the Skyway Church, that property.
Mayor, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know that. That is owned by the Skyway Church?
Are we?
That which is on Van Buren?
This right here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's future development, I believe, phase 3 of their development plan.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is just another way of the church recognizing their contribution to this community. They do so many things that integrate themselves within the community. I know I've attended several patriotic events at the church, and I'm appreciative of being a veteran of World War II and what they do for us and those that have served. Not only for that reason, but for the youth of the community. Right now, when this ball field is not being used by their congregation, they're turning it over to the city generally for use. I think that's a big hand on their part. I appreciate that movement on their part.
They have a big outreach to young people, and something we really need a great deal of in the city, and I agree with you.
And
Congratulations.
I will
to the
second
church.
that as well, because I'm president of a nonprofit, and we needed some help, and the Skyway Church jumped in, and they were there for us, so really appreciate it. Thank you.
Pass that on to your folks and your pastor. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Now we'll go to comments or reports on current events by council members. Councilmember Holland.
Last Thursday, the MAG Domestic Violence Committee that I'm a part of met with the Homeless Committee. I attended that with 2 staff members from the police department, and I was really enlightened. Sometimes we don't think of all that connection that they have between domestic violence and homeless, and it really brought it home, and we've teamed up, and it's just amazing to see what is happening out there. It's not enough, but it is happening, and we're trying really hard to make sure that our participation from the City of Goodyear is on a continual basis. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I just wanted to bring it up. It was in the back of our book. Nice letter from our McDonald's owner locally to Harvey and his group, and Dwayne Miller, Bob, and Alex. And I don't think I missed anyone else in this letter, but it's nice to receive those letters from time to time. So congrats to your group, and happy holidays to the rest of the staff.
Councilmember Souza?
This being our last meeting of the year, we wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and prosperous and healthy New Year.
Councilmember Lord?
I was really asleep at the helm this evening when we started. I had a couple items that some citizens brought up to me. Can I do that this time to staff? Or
Why don't we do that as an inquiry to staff?
Okay, all right, okay. I would also like wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a safe holiday time.
Ditto.
Okay. Is this...
Is that a new signal? It's Italian.
That's good
No,
timing.
that's not.
Happy holidays.
No,
That's
no.
a holiday. That's a ditto.
That's not the real Italian signal.
Comments from the city manager?
I'm sure I could top that.
Don't try.
Mayor, members of the council, absolutely the same. On behalf of staff, thank you very much to each of you for your leadership, your extremely hard work over this last year. And we look forward to next year. January 7th will be our next meeting. That will be a work session. Our first council meeting will be January 14th. So on behalf of staff, thank you, and have a great holiday as well. And Mr. Mayor, I didn't have any follow-up items of staff. this point.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for the council to ask questions of the staff. Councilmember Lord.
Okay, just a couple of things that happened this week with people emailing us. Some of you have seen the emails. One of it was, again, on shopping carts being left in canyon trails, in the wash areas and in the, I can't think of, pass area in that. And so the citizen was really concerned because I don't think that they got, they talked to staff, but staff indicated that it didn't seem to be on the top of the list for the developers in that area to be concerned about shopping carts. And this person is. They have seen several of them, made complaints. And I guess I'm asking, do we have a commitment for prevention of this happening? Otherwise, are we working with the stores with a plan of prevention and being proactive? Then, so, and I know this is, I've heard this topic before.
Yeah.
I think every year they've been on the council so far, I've heard it. But obviously, we're not taking care of it, or we need to do something more.
I agree.
And so, and I made the suggestion long ago, and I don't think the American public would take this, but in Europe, you put a quarter in to get your card. Now, to get your quarter back, you have to put the card back to get your quarter. And so you could do that with it doesn't have to be a quarter, it could be just a slug, but, there could be other ways that they could do this. But we do need to think about this, because nobody likes to be riding their bike around down the street and seeing these carts here and there. And so let's try to be proactive on that. Then my second one is I was approached by another citizen that was concerned about the debris and materials left at roadsides when they're under construction, i.e. the Yuma Road. And so, and when they call to complain, we normally say, well, we have said on occasion, that's not us, that's ADOT, or that's this agency, or it's that agency. So consequently, the debris sits for a while. And so people living in that area driving back get concerned after a while that, hey, we don't care about their neighborhood. Well, we do. So I think we need to have some kind of plan that we're cross-checking or checking on these areas under construction, the street construction, and do they leaving debris in the area? So did I absolutely not make myself clear? Was that totally confusing?
Mayor? I just wanted to mention that, when I first came on the council, I ended up on the shopping cart committee, or whatever you want to call it. And we went and discussed with Safeway and Walmart. And Brian, I don't remember if you were involved in it at that time.
It was not, personally, no.
This is particularly Canyon Trails now, that area now.
But what was happening there was that we did go back and talk to the owners of the shopping carts. And they were thinking of coming up with some kind of a tracking device. And they talked about, like you have at the airport, where you put your money in and then you bring your cart back and you get your money back. And it wasn't enough of an investment. The problem wasn't bad enough for them to make the investment in the equipment that it would take to monitor all that. And then they thought of having someone out front to watch to make sure shopping carts were immediately retrieved when they left the store. That was their other big thing that they were going to do. So it would be interesting to see if they did any follow-up with that. Not at the stores I've been to. I haven't had anybody run out and yank my cart away from me yet. But that was one of the things that
follow you around now.
Except Rob. Rob is serious about it.
Yeah.
But it might be something, to kind of follow up what Councilmember Lord said, because I know that was a really big issue, and we were trying to keep them off the streets.
There's two in the median on McDowell right now.
Yeah, see, okay.
You and I drove by the same one.
So, did you understand what I meant by the roads under construction?
Yes,
I didn't articulate myself very well. It's late.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lord, a couple of things, staff. We'll look at what the findings were from the previous committee or task force that we set up for shopping carts. That has been an issue, certainly on the education side, working with the store owners. And so that one we'll look back at. And as it relates to the debris, the best that we can control, we will. Some of it's voluntary compliance, some of it's contracts that we actually control. ADOT up by Bullard Interchange. That one we may have less say, but look for voluntary compliance and those types of things. But yes, we'll look into that. Because debris can get away from us, a variety of things, everything from piles of dirt to other things.
And obviously, these people take pride of ownership where they live, and they don't like to see this type of debris, so.
Thank you.
It's not metal art like other
No, it's
medium
not artwork.
things.
Yeah, it's really a matter of civic pride is what
Yeah, it
you're talking
is.
about. And if on the carts, if you could come back with a review and possibly even a plan to reduce or eliminate the problem
Yeah, I'd like to see.
throughout the city.
Yeah.
It is disappointing when you see them, but at 7 o'clock in the morning, driving down to Wildflower, that one shopping center is just mobbed with these things all over the place. So, I don't know why that happens, but it does. So maybe we can help include it.
I was going to say the latest communication, and not to, we don't need to belabor it further this evening, but talk with Harvey. I know I had a bunch of communication back and forth with Bob in Harvey's office a couple months back. Very good to spread that around.
Okay? Good. Meeting is adjourned.